Hello, everybody. I'm Derek Arden, and welcome to Monday Night Live. Tonight, I have Karen Young with me. Karen's the founder and CEO of Ethos Metrics, a specialist pay-per-click agency, which helps UK SMEs generate quality leads through Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn ads. With 30 years in marketing, I know Karen had a lot of experience with British Airways and a number of other companies. Karen's worked across multiple sectors, guiding businesses how to reach their audience profitably. The world's changed and the world's changing really fast. Karen's known for an honest, data-driven approach. Karen, I understand you don't believe that pay-per-click is best for everybody. Karen, welcome to Monday Night Live. Thank you for joining us again. And I think you've got a presentation to show us to start off with.
Yeah, I have. It's not sort of a one-way lecture, so if anyone has questions, then do feel free to stick them in the chat or interrupt if you like. So let me just share this. Can everyone see that now?
Yep, that's great.
Yeah?
Yep, thanks.
Fab. So the first thing is to say that I feel a slight imposter talking specifically about LinkedIn because, as Derek said in the intro, we are very much a pay-per-click advertising agency. So we are here to spend our clients' budgets on clicks on adverts, which take people to their websites and then hopefully generate leads for them. The reason I'm talking about LinkedIn is because quite often when we speak to a client and they want to run ads, I will say to them, actually, I'm not sure that's going to work. How about going down another route? And we talk about other channels that are available free of charge. So that's sort of more what I'm talking about today. But really how you use LinkedIn to try and get people to reach out to you and connect with your business. So I thought I'd start with a quick overview about LinkedIn. 900 plus million members globally. So it's a really big social media platform. And it's the biggest business social media platform in virtually all countries. There's a few in Europe that have alternatives. In Germany, there's one that's bigger than LinkedIn, for example, but generally, certainly in the English-speaking world, LinkedIn is the biggest. In the UK, 44 million users, and it's actually growing month on month. So particularly the younger generation, a lot more of them are on LinkedIn, I think, than were back at the start of the platform 20 years ago. So you can see 45% aged between 25 and 35. It's the only social media platform, I think, apart from X, formerly known as Twitter, that is skewed male rather than female. So 56% of users on LinkedIn are male. And 61% of UK professionals use LinkedIn for networking actively. So it's an ideal platform to connect with decision makers. And a slightly jokey point at the end, I actually think it's probably the least toxic social media platform, by which I mean there is generally a respectful tone, I think, on LinkedIn. I don't know if everyone else agrees with that. But compared to other social media platforms where people tend to pick fights in the comments, there's very little of that on LinkedIn. And I was actually listening to an interview with LinkedIn's founder the other day, and he was talking about how they wanted that culture on LinkedIn of respect and how they enforce and moderate LinkedIn. And I also think there's just naturally sort of a lot of self-regulation on LinkedIn, because if you're connected to your boss and your colleagues, you probably aren't going to behave too badly. So I think LinkedIn is probably, if you're selling to other businesses, the best place to generate leads. So we work with people who have money to spend on LinkedIn, but if you have no budget, there's no problem. I don't run LinkedIn ads for my own company because it's, I don't need to. I can use the free channels, the free exposure I can get on LinkedIn to actually generate the leads that we need. So the things that people tend to get wrong with LinkedIn is you need to start by growing your network. And by that, I mean the people that you are personally connected to on LinkedIn. So, you know, when you're on LinkedIn, people can send you connection requests and you can accept or reject, and you end up with a number of connections, and then people can also follow you. So that's when they are tracking what you're doing, but you're not connected with them. They're just watching what you're doing, if you like. And it's very important to have the right network. I think this is where people go wrong sometimes. They connect with anyone that sends them an invitation. You know, they sort of send out connection requests slightly without too much of a strategy. And it's really important to understand that your best opportunity for getting a connection with someone and starting to sell to them through LinkedIn is actually when you first connected. So if, let's say, Derek sends me a connection request on LinkedIn and I accept it, straight after that, if I then post on LinkedIn, if I say something about my business, Derek is very likely to see one of my posts because he's seen as a new connection, and the algorithms will say, well, Derek's probably quite interested in knowing what Karen's got to say. So Derek is then very likely to see posts from me. If Derek finds that post boring or unengaging or kind of just skips straight past it, the algorithms will say, maybe Derek's not that interested. He might see one or two more posts, and if he doesn't engage with those, that's it. I've probably lost that connection. So the key is putting out quality content regularly so that your target audience is going to engage with it. And this is the really interesting bit for me, you know, understanding who your target audience is on LinkedIn. So for us, so we obviously sell advertising to businesses. You might say, well, my target audience would be marketing managers at other businesses, you know, the businesses we'd like to work with, the people who'd become our clients. The thing is, if I connect with, you know, the marketing managers at lots and lots of different businesses, they have no incentive to like and comment on my posts because I'm someone selling to them. I'm a service provider, right? So if I connect with, say, the local business that is, I don't know, someone contacted me today who installs driveways and patios, let's say it's them, and they're not interested in working with me right now, they're not going to like and comment on my posts because it's a little bit like taking a cold call and engaging with someone when you're not ready to buy, if that makes sense. So if I only connected with people I wanted to work with, I would put posts out there and they would get very little engagement. They wouldn't get many likes, they wouldn't get many comments because it's not in those people's interest to show that they're engaged with my content. So my target audience isn't actually my end client. My target audience is freelance marketing directors or marketing managers who go into other companies and work with those companies because those people have got money in the, you know, skin in the game to comment on my posts. If I put something up that's interesting about marketing and those people want to win business too, they're going to want to demonstrate their expertise and they're going to be commenting on my posts and saying, that's a really interesting point about whatever it is I'm saying about Google or whoever it is, right? So then my posts start getting comments and likes and the algorithms say, wow, this person's posting information that's interesting. So I think quite a lot of the time when people are posting on LinkedIn and getting no engagement, it's because they're not connected to the right people who are incentivized actually to engage with their content, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So you can find the people that you might want to connect with by filtering your feed, and I'll just show you how to do this. I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with LinkedIn, do this all the time. But let's just say this is my screenshot of LinkedIn. If you search in the top box for the job title of the people that you think might comment on your posts, not the people who you want to necessarily win as clients, but the people that you think will comment. So I've typed marketing director here. And I'll be looking for third-party freelance marketing directors, given the context of what I've just been explaining. And I've made sure that I've chosen my second connections. So everyone know how connections work on LinkedIn. So your first connections are people you're directly connected to. So I'm connected to Derek with first connections. Your second connections are people who are connected to people you know. So, but you're not connected to them. So let's say Derek is connected on LinkedIn with everyone else in the room here. And you might be people that are likely to comment on my posts. Then I would be saying, can you show me my second connections who are marketing directors? And that enables me to reach Derek's network and the networks of all the people I'm connected with. And they're more likely, if they start showing an interest, I've got an in because I can ask Derek to introduce me. Does that make sense? Third place plus connections are people who are a step removed again. So there'd be Derek's connections, which starts getting a bit distant. And then because I'm in the Farnham area, which comes under kind of the greater Guildford area of the UK, then I've selected that because local's easier for me. I can bump into them at networking. They're more likely to go with a local business. So I've selected that, and I've happened to have got some of these people pop up. Some of them are people that I can see are at companies that I might want to work with, like this lady here, marketing director at TWM Solicitors. I probably wouldn't connect with her cold because she's known, you know, she's not going to want to connect with someone who she thinks is going to want to sell to her. But this person at the bottom here is working for an agency, I think. So he might be a good person for me to connect with and try and say, you know, we can help each other out. I'll be posting interesting content. I have clients I could introduce him to, and vice versa. So I think it's important to think about who's likely to engage with your content before you even start. And then you're talking about building up your network with people who are most likely to like and comment. Once you've done that, it's the next question is what do you post? What do you put up on LinkedIn? And I'm a big fan of sharing valuable content, not just pitching from a sales perspective, which is obvious. It's a social network. You should post on LinkedIn in the same way as you would talk to someone at an event. You know, I wouldn't walk into a room and suddenly start selling my business in a kind of, you know, a really aggressive way. People would walk a mile, wouldn't they? They'd run off and get a coffee instantly. So, you know, tips, stories, thoughts on challenges always go down well. Case studies and stories. Photos always do really well. Probably most of us are not of the generation that like a selfie, but selfies do go down very well on LinkedIn. There's lots of data showing the algorithms will give you more reach and more engagement than if you post a photo of something else. So faces of you, particularly engaging photos of you looking at the camera, tend to do particularly well, even though it feels quite sort of cringeworthy to do. Certainly from my side, when I post a picture of myself and my team, we get the best reach, always. And video in particular works really well. So has anyone here posted videos of themselves on LinkedIn? You have, Will? Yeah, Patricia has. Have you, Derek?
No, not really, but we were talking about it 3 weeks ago, weren't we, Karen? This is almost how we came to today.
Yeah,
I did post something on the Swanage Heritage Railway last week, and that got more likes than I get normally.
Yeah. Although Patricia likes adding photos. I think it's a very British thing to feel terribly like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. But yeah, there is something about posting videos of yourself. Again, if you think back to a networking event, if I go to a networking event in Guildford and there are 100 people in the room and I'm there for 2 hours, I can probably speak to 15, 20 people, you know, if I'm giving people a reasonable amount of attention and not just, you know, cutting conversations dead. If you're on LinkedIn, you know, one of my videos could get 2,000 impressions, 5,000 impressions. That's an awful lot of people that you're reaching. in one go.
Oh,
And it is really interesting to me that even if I haven't had likes and comments on a video, I will go to events and people will say, "Oh, I saw you talking," or they'll know me. They'll go, "Oh, you're Karen from Ethos." And you'll think, "Gosh, I'm pretty sure we've never met." But they have seen you 2, 3, 4 times, and to them, you're a familiar face. So it sort of does that first stage of building a connection. And I'm particularly a fan of posting on LinkedIn, very natural, unedited, off the cuff videos. I don't think you need to spend a fortune on production. I was saying to Derek, literally my LinkedIn videos are me, a phone camera on a stand. I happen to have a ring light, but you don't need to. And I just make a few bullet points of the things that I want to cover in a 2-minute video, and I just talk. And if I don't get it in 1 or 2 takes, then I give up for the day and maybe try again. But it's definitely not perfect.
Karen, that's how that's what we discussed, didn't we, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Your video did look really professional, actually, and you did it just on your phone. So that's congratulations. What's the difference between an impression, a like, and a comment? I know what a comment is, but I wasn't sure what
Mm.
the impression was.
So impression is just jargon for when someone has seen your ad. So if you think you're in LinkedIn and you just scroll past something, if that's within your view, and I think for LinkedIn it's something like 3 seconds, that will count as an impression. Someone has laid eyes on your ad. If they click to expand that section, you get kind of like a top couple of lines, and if you click see more, it will open up. That gets you bonus points, if you like, because it means that LinkedIn knows that people are reading your entire post. And so even if they don't then click a like, which is the thumbs up or a smiley face, there's 5 reactions on LinkedIn. You can show support so even if they don't click anything or they don't comment, if they expand the text to read the whole lot, that will get you points for the algorithms, and your post will go wider. It will reach more people.
Brilliant. And what's the best length of a video? I know we've got YouTube Shorts now, and TikTok's about 20 seconds, isn't it? So what's the best
Yeah,
length of
yeah.
these videos?
I mean, attention spans are short nowadays and getting shorter all the time. I think it's concerning, but that's another whole conversation. Um, so for advertising, we say less than 30 seconds. And you have to have a hook in the first 2 or 3 seconds. So my worst nightmare is when a client gives me an advert to run on LinkedIn, a video, and it starts with a beautiful logo coming over the screen, and then 5 seconds later, it actually comes up with something you want to say. I'm like, cut the logo, cut to the chase, So there is definitely, if I was making a video, I would try and go straight in with something that I think will grab people's attention. And the same goes with your text. So they call it the hook, the first bit that shows before you click see more. I spend quite a lot of time, or most of my time, thinking about what that hook is. So I will never say, today I'm excited to announce that we are working with a new client. People are like, they're gone. Whereas, if you say something quite a question, or it's something quite provoking or something curious or something funny, people will expand the post, they will read on, and then you've got a lot more chance of getting their interest. So it's all about thinking about those hooks. And what you can do is you can think about what you want to say, you can write it down, and then you can go into a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these AI platforms, Claude, and you can say, here's a LinkedIn post, can you rewrite it for me in my style of writing so that it has a really punchy opener, and people are more likely to open, and ChatGPT is very good at doing that sort of thing. But I would be careful to say, keep it in my voice, because you don't want it to kind of suddenly start sounding like, a generic sort of American style post. Sorry, Patricia. But the ChatGPT voice is not that British at times. So I think it's important. And if you pay for ChatGPT, I pay $20 a month. It learns how you like to write. So yeah, getting the right hook is really important. And 80/20 applies in all walks of life for so many different things. But I think if you give value 80% of the time, then you can sell yourself the other 20%. So I will, I'll post some videos, I'll give information, I'll try and post helpful stuff, and then I will, post about a testimonial from a recent client and ask people to reach out if they want a free account audit, say. So, but I will not do those kind of salesy messages very often. The other thing, I don't think I have a bullet point on here, is try and avoid sending people off LinkedIn, by which I mean posting a link to another site, your own website or a news site that you're talking about. LinkedIn's primary aim is to keep people on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn can make money from adverts. It's not rocket science, LinkedIn makes money from advertisers, so and subscriptions. So the moment you post something and you say, I've got this amazing blog post, go to my website, LinkedIn thinks, well, I'm not going to show that as much because that's someone leaving LinkedIn. I don't know if they're coming back. So if you want to post a blog post, I would create it on LinkedIn and keep people on LinkedIn. And you can say, you can find more on my website, but people can find your website. They can Google, they can go to your company page, they will find you. And that will really increase your reach. This is one Derek and I were talking about that I think prompted us this being a topic of conversation. Hashtags aren't really needed anymore. So, you see like strings of hashtag social media, hashtag Google Ads, hashtag whatever your thing you're talking about at the bottom. So those were required in sort of in an age where you had to give LinkedIn information about what you were talking about. Nowadays, AI is so clever that AI knows what you're talking about. So I've noticed if I post or I comment about a particular topic, LinkedIn starts showing me more posts about that topic almost straight away. And that's the AI understanding the nature of what I'm talking about and then showing me more of the same to keep me on the platform. Because of course, LinkedIn wants to keep you on the platform for as long as possible to sell ads. So you used to have to do that with hashtags. They're not really needed anymore. Not many people search using hashtags. So you can save yourself some time. Generally, I've stopped using them completely. And the advice from LinkedIn is you don't need them anymore in advertising. Another one that people sometimes mix up is tagging lots of people they know. So what tagging means? That's when you say at and then little at symbol and then someone's name. And that means they get a notification in their LinkedIn inbox saying, say, for example, Derek had posted about today and then he'd said at Karen Young, and listed all our names from LinkedIn using our profiles. You should only do that if you think those people are going to get straight on and like, comment, engage with your post. Because if you tag a load of people and they ignore you, then the algorithm thinks, Derek doesn't really know those people or they don't want to comment. So it's counterproductive. Your post will die a death. So it's better not to tag people. And generally, engagement needs to be quite fast. So, if I notice if I post something and I don't get any likes or comments within an hour, that post will go nowhere. So it can help, if you're posting something that you really want some reach on, to get one or two friendly people to, to say, I'm about to post on this. Is there any chance you could just give me a thumbs up or a comment? The exception to that is LinkedIn is really, really cracking down on what they call engagement pods, which is where you have a group of people who are all liking and commenting on each other's posts. It's very much in vogue a little while back. People realized they could game the algorithms by having a group of 20, 50, 100 people who, the moment a post would go up, they'd all comment and like on it. LinkedIn now knows if the same people are doing that, and it's counterproductive. Your post will not go any further. So yeah, it's better to have kind of a mix of people each time engaging with your post rather than the same 10 people.
Aaron, that's what you were saying to the best group, wasn't it, last week
Yeah.
when Steve said, can we all comment on these posts? So we can't really beat the system. That's what you're saying, is it?
Well, it's always a cat and mouse game with everything, isn't it? You know, with Google's SEO and LinkedIn and all of these platforms, you know, they're trying to sell engagement, we're trying to get the best engagement, and it's a case of everyone trying to break the rules, and then the platform catches up. But that isn't one that works anymore. Yeah, yeah. So in terms of how often to post, if you can post once a week, great. Although interestingly, I notice if you don't post regularly, your old posts still keep getting views and likes. LinkedIn has a much longer sort of tail on posts than the other platforms do. On Facebook, things die within days, whereas on LinkedIn, you can find that posts are being seen a month later. But, you know, the more you can be consistent, the better. But life does get in the way. And then the other thing I was going to say is a kind of a coming to the end of this is just, you know, not everyone likes posting. It is putting yourself out there to post. Comments are still really valuable, however. So if you can't face posting, comment on other people's posts. And the really nice thing about that is you can find the posts that would be looked at by your target audience, and then you can write thoughtful comments on those posts. And in a way, that positions you in a really nice way as an expert in the field. And if you do that consistently, I've read some data that says, you know, it's actually almost as good as posting, if not better. Sometimes you can get more reach on comments. The thing I would say is don't bother commenting on older posts. And by old, I mean anything less than a few hours.
Few hours. Wow. Yeah.
Because particularly very popular posts, this is not if there's like 3 comments on something, but if you think about commenting on a post from someone who's a bit of a LinkedIn influencer and they've already got 50 comments, well, your comment is lost. You're never going to get anywhere near being read. If it's on a post that's from someone who is, you know, in your social circle and has quite a small reach, then absolutely go for it for quite a while afterwards. But it's a really great way to kind of expand the number of people who know who you are. And if you get likes on your comments or responses to your comments, then obviously you can send that person a connection request and they know who you are, very likely to accept it. It's also a great way to connect with people you want to get to know, because if you know, say there's someone I'd really like to work with locally who's a marketing director who can refer me to clients, I can post on their, I can comment on their posts. They love that because it gets their posts out further. And then it becomes quite natural after a month or two to say, you know, I'm really interested in your comment, you know, in your content, perhaps we could go for a coffee. And you've got a very natural introduction without having to do the sort of the cold spamming people with messages on LinkedIn, which, you know, can go either way. Start conversations, yeah. And, you know, as I said earlier, search for your ideal audience before you start, because the more you're connected to the right people, the more you're commenting on the right posts, the more effective it's going to be. So it does need a little bit of a strategy. Very briefly on LinkedIn ads, I don't know if anyone here is going to be in the market for LinkedIn ads, but you might know people that are. The lovely thing about LinkedIn ads is you can target advertising by any single field that's available in LinkedIn. So if you think about it, we give LinkedIn huge amounts of data about ourselves and about our companies, and it's generally up to date. And then we also interact with LinkedIn, so LinkedIn know a lot about people who are active on LinkedIn. So you could say to me, you know, I run this is a client of ours, precision engineering company, and I need to reach procurement managers in the aerospace industry with this level of seniority in companies that are bigger than 250 people. well, I can get you that audience. And it can be as small as 300 people. You can even say to me, here's a list of emails of everyone I want you to target, or here's a list of company names. I just want to reach the procurement managers who work for these companies. So you can be really, really targeted in a way you can't be on other platforms. You can run lots of different formats, so there's many different ways to reach people. One I particularly like is this one called thought leadership ads, which is where let's say someone in your leadership team or anyone in the company that you want to promote is very good on LinkedIn. And let's say they have a post that's already got 50 likes and some comments. What I can do is I can use that post, I can push that post out to the chosen audience. So we might have 10,000 people that we want to see that post. They've missed it in terms of, he posted it, they missed it, they didn't see it. But I can make sure that post appears in their feed for the next month. So the chances of them missing it is really low. And because it's got likes and comments, it doesn't look like an ad. It just looks like that person's posted. And you can also collect leads within LinkedIn. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where you click on an ad and it pops up a form and it's already pre-populated with your name and your email address. That works really well if you say, do you want this free thing? A white paper or a download or a guide to something. However, you do need cash, and kind of the absolute bare minimum is about £1,200-ish, certainly to work with us. So yeah, it works really well to amplify what you're doing if you can afford to invest. We've had clients in the past who have spent £200,000 a month on LinkedIn ads. And they generated huge numbers of leads for their sales team, 50 a day, 100 a day even, which for them was obviously worth it, or they wouldn't have been spending that kind of cash. So people do use LinkedIn at scale like that if that was a global company, but it's not unusual for people to spend more than that. So that was that. That's my little team. Apart from Sam, who is our developer, he never appears on camera with the rest of us. To be fair, as the only boy in the team, I think that's fair enough. He would he would stand out a little bit. So
Karen, brilliant. Thank you, Karen.
no,
The 8 of you look a bit scary. I understand poor old Sam. He's probably on his own. I think I need to meet him. And
we're actually 10 now, Derek, so we outnumber him by some.
oh,
Yeah.
poor chap, poor chap. 3 or 4 very quick questions before we wrap up. And number one is, you talked about 2,000 to 5,000 impressions. I mean, I've got about 5,000 people following me. I've probably got all the wrong people, but I can't get rid of them.
You can get rid of them.
I wouldn't have time to even do it. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering what I should do there. I just post and see what happens.
I would start getting more strategic about who you want to reach and connect with them. So I think I remember you saying, that you would accept connection requests from people that sent them in. I think, that can lead to not necessarily having the most curated list of contacts. It's not that those people aren't useful, and certainly not all of my connections are useful to me, but it's just thinking, because you want to be very strategic about who you're trying to reach and with what message. The strategy should really be, right, I'm going to connect with 5 people who are absolutely in my target market. Now I'm going to put out a post that's absolutely right for them. Because we've just connected, chances are they'll see that post. I've got that window of a week or 2 where they'll see anything I post. If you post something really interesting and they engage with it, then they'll start seeing more of your posts. So, but if you've connected with someone 2 years ago, the chances are they don't see anything. If they've never engaged, they'll never see your posts. So your impressions will be low. So yeah.
Last question from me. I put a post up today. I put it up with an AI picture from DALL-E. I guess a lot of people are doing that. They don't look all that good, do they really? Does that work?
I'm not a massive fan of DALL-E images. I think you're right. You can spot them a mile off. if you're on the paid ChatGPT plan, there's now a new image generator on there that you can generate photorealistic images that are astoundingly good. So we have got, to give you an example, we have got some e-commerce clients, so they're selling through their websites. One of them is a shoe manufacturer, and they twice a year spend a lot of money on photo shoots that take a week. You know, they have photographers, stylists, people editing pictures, setting up scenes, the whole works. And I literally uploaded a pair of their walking boots. They never normally have images, great images for walking boots, because that would be another shoot somewhere else in the countryside or whatever, and they just don't have the budget. So I said, here's a pair of walking boots. I want them on, they target a slightly older demographic. I want them on a woman, age 50 plus. This is the style of the photography. Here's a copy of the boot. Can you generate her sitting in a relaxed way in the English countryside? It gave me an image that they would use. It put the shoe on her foot and it looked like a photo. It looked absolutely perfect. And I worry about that, because I just know the big teams that are now possibly not going to have a job when they come around to their autumn winter shoot in the near future. Possibly, I think they'll be fine for autumn winter. I would not like to put money on them being fine for spring summer 26. So I think there's, with images, DALL-E is kind of like a first stage AI generator. They have that slight look to them, but the newer tools are really much better.
What's that called, Karen? The new tool?
So it's just the standard ChatGPT. I can show you after the call if you like, Derek. If you have a paid subscription, there's just a little selector where you can choose image, and it came out maybe 10 days ago. It's pretty new.
Okay, thank you. And just 2 or 3 last questions about videos in the chat box. So length of video for LinkedIn, length of video for YouTube Short, length of video for TikTok.
Yeah, so YouTube Shorts, TikTok are very similar platforms. You are engaging with people who are swipe. LinkedIn, I think you've got a little bit longer. So I've certainly posted 3-minute videos on LinkedIn and I have people watch to the end. I think it depends how interesting you're trying to be. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, it's got to be a completely different style. I think it has to be very natural, kind of the user-generated content works very well on those platforms, by which I mean kind of real, authentic people talking about stuff being somewhere it looks like it's real life. So for ads, we run ads at 10 seconds on those platforms. We run ads at 30 seconds, certainly no longer than that. If you want sort of in terms of widths and formats and all the rest of it, if you just Google the best aspect ratios for LinkedIn versus TikTok, there are plenty of places that say, what works. As a standard rule for LinkedIn, we go with square videos.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason for that is if you upload portrait videos, so this way around, they will only show on mobile devices. If you upload landscape videos, they will show on both desktop devices and mobile devices, but on mobile they are very small. You take up very little real estate on the screen. Whereas square gets you onto all devices and it takes up sort of as much screen space as you can get. So if you're going to do just one format, I always go for square, and the same for images actually.
Fantastic.
Square works well. Yeah, but YouTube Shorts and TikTok, you definitely want portrait, obviously.
You say obviously, I didn't know that until 3 weeks ago. So sometimes the obvious isn't very obvious. Karen, that was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for joining us yet again. Can I ask all members of Monday Night Live to give you the vote of thanks in the normal
Thank you.
way. Absolutely fantastic. And if anybody's in the Guildford area, don't forget to come along as my guest to the best group. We might even get Patricia Fripp there in June. You never know, do we? When she lands at Heathrow. Uh, Karen, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn.
Oh,
If you
well,
type Karen Young Ethos, I'll come up.
that was a
You can
pretty.
message me. Yeah, we can connect on LinkedIn after the call, and yeah, go from there. I'm just noticing there's other questions. Happy to answer those on LinkedIn or whenever.
We'll take those questions. We'll take those questions in a minute if that's all right.
Yeah,
But
okay, yeah, no worries.
Karen, thanks for joining us once again, and we hope to see you back on the show at some stage because things are moving so quickly. And thank you so much.
No problem.